So okay, Andrew's gonna press the mute button because I've got a couple of bits to share with you before we actually get into the demonstration. So we're looking at the MicroStudio Best of Florals Volume 1. Now, hopefully you've all received your USB now and seen how much is on there. So we're barely going to touch the surface of it today. So I'm going to go with techniques rather than trying to show you what's actually on there. So we'll dip into a couple of them. We'll cross and mix a couple in the demos. But I'm going to try and show you some little bits that maybe we've not done for a little while, and something maybe a little bit new to some of you as well. We do have a discount code for you as a thank you for joining me today. It's for the Highlight Crafts website, and it is MCS15, so MCS15. And that is for 15% off any USB until next Thursday. So I've just sprung that on Andrew because I literally did it as I was coming in because I thought, why not? So he'll pop that in the chat in a little while for you. So that's MCS15 and it's 15% off until next Thursday. So of any MicroStudio USB, anything in the USBs category on the website. So you might find something in there that's got some paper packs with it. It might be a USB that's included with some painting pages, but anything in the USB category, that code will get you 15% off. So that's in the chat for you now. So let's have a look and let's dive straight in. If you do have any questions, I'll break in between the demonstrations so that we can see if anybody's got any questions. Pop them in the chat. Andrew will feed them to me and we'll try and answer them as we're going along. So yeah, let's get in and have a look. Let's get going. Okay, so here we go. So when you open MicroStudio, it's going to do a very, very quick recap from the beginning for anybody that's new, because we did get a lot of new customers with this particular one. So when you open MicroStudio, you get the white area in the center, which is your A4 page. If you're in the States, it can be letter. You can change this to A5, A6, anything your printer will allow. So that's the area in the center. Over to the left, we have the boxes where we find all of the artwork. So this is where you find all of your images. And across the top is the toolbox of your graphics program. And then on the left-hand side, we've also got some extra little tabs which have the extra elements of the graphics program, which we'll dip into as we go through some of the techniques. So what I wanted to do is show you, first of all, we find the artwork by clicking on the plus beside my artwork, and here we see Best of MCS Florals Volume 1. So we click on the plus beside that. Whenever there's a plus, it means that we're looking at, basically we're looking at a filing cabinet. So every plus is a drawer that we haven't opened yet. So we click on the plus beside Botanical Blooms, and in there you can see we've got all these folders. So most of them don't have a plus beside them. That means that we're actually looking at the box of backgrounds and the box of design sheets. We've also got a plus for stationery, so that means we've got a drawer there which has got some more little boxes in it. And in there we've got cards, envelopes, insert stationery boxes. So there's a huge, huge amount on this USB for you to play with. So what I wanted to do first of all was to take a design sheet, for example. So we're going to go with Botanical Blooms because that's the first one on here. We'll have a look at a couple of these and pick one out that we want to play with. So we've got a few different ones on here. So lots and lots of lovely, beautiful floral designs. And let's have a look what we've got. So we've got different styles of sheets as well. So you can see this one's going to make a square card. So you can see we've got a square backing paper and a square topper, and then lots and lots of embellishments for you to actually create different embellishments and designs. Now, if you do have a scan and cut machine, you could scan this into that machine and it will do the cutting for you. That is allowed with MicroStudio. So we've got lots of different sets of design sheets here, but we're going to work with one of these ones to start with. So it's got a backing paper on it and it's got some topper elements. So we'll go with this one here, and we're just going to, let's have a look. So I'm going to make the page A6. So we're going to change the page size. So we're going to go into print, and we're going to change the page size. So you see here, this will change the page to any size that your printer will allow. So actually the printer we've got hooked up to this computer will only allow me to change it to A5, not A6. So I'm going to change the page to A5. So you can see the white area has changed to A5, but the actual topper sheet is still A4. So we've not changed the size of the actual elements, just the actual page that we're going to work on. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to copy and paste this design sheet. So the design sheets are literally designed so that you've got everything on there to make a project. So you can literally make a card. So you can print it out, do your matting and layering and make your card with one sheet of paper. So I would recommend printing those onto Pure Print 250. If you're wanting to do some decoupage layers, print it onto the 140 because that will allow you to curl and get your decoupage layers to hold. But for just simple topper matting and layering, I would go with the 250. So I've clicked on the crop button, which is in the image tool section, and we're going to crop the backing paper off the design sheet. So we're literally going to click and drag the mouse over the top of the backing paper area and then press OK. So now we've got our backing paper. I'm going to rotate this around by using the little circle at the top. I'm going to press the shift button on my mouse and we're going to pop it over the page there. So you can see now we've got it on the page and it's just literally covering the sheet, but I'm going to fade it down. So to do this, we go into our effects tab and we reduce the opacity. So the shift button is the one on your keyboard, it's just above control and it's got an arrow on it. It might say SFT, or on mine it's actually got an actual arrow printed on the button. So we're just going to reduce that down in opacity, so it's just a softer backing paper on there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the topper and we're going to take lots of different elements from the sheet and we're going to build the sheet digitally. So we're going to build it as it is, so then it can either be a topper or it can be a card front for us. So we're going to use the crop button, but first of all we need to copy and paste so that we've got another one on the page, because we're going to crop this one and then we're going to need some other elements from it. So we click the crop button, so again just literally up at the top we've got image tools, press the crop button and we just click and drag over the area that we actually want to crop. Now this particular topper has got a little pink border around it and I've just missed it slightly as I've gone to crop at the top there, but wherever we've got the blue boxes around it, well, that means that the crop function is still active, so we can just literally click and drag this up so that we actually get the pink border in there, and then just bring this one in so that we've got rid of the little white bit at the side, and then we press OK. So now we've got our topper on there. I'm going to stretch this up just a little bit so we can make it a bit bigger. And then we're actually going to add a drop shadow to this just to give it a little bit of dimension. So we're going to go back down to our effects tab, down to drop shadow. So you can see there the black line comes out from the side. Just going to move the drop shadow around a little bit. I prefer my drop shadows to be at the bottom right corner. It's entirely up to you where you pop yours. That is just changed by moving the slider, that is the direction. And then we're going to go to the blur radius just to soften the drop shadow just a little bit so it's not a solid black line. So you can see there we just added a little bit of depth and dimension to the project just simply by using the sliders that are called drop shadow in the effects tab. And then we're going to add another bit of the topper here. So we've got this one here, so we've got the beautiful, the main decorative element. So we're going to copy and paste. So right click and copy, right click and paste. And pop this one over there. So I'm always making sure that I've got a working copy of the sheet on the page. You have always got it in the files tab if you wanted to just keep pulling it back onto the page, but that means I've got to remember which one it is. So it's easier to copy and paste so it's on there ready for me. So we're going to click onto this one again and we're going to crop. I'm going to crop this section here. So we're just going to go there and we're going to crop. I'm going to get a little white border on it this time. So again, before I actually press OK, the crop feature is still actually active. So we're going to just move these edges out just a little bit so they've got a white border on there. So I'm going to get it so it's a nice little even white border, and then that looks like we've done some matting and layering. And if you think about when you're doing your matting and layering, when you've got something that's coloured or patterned going onto quite a heavily patterned item, you would always add a little white layer, you know, maybe just a little white border on your matting and layering just to lift it off a little bit, just to give it a little bit of differentiation. So we're just doing that digitally. So we're just going to click the OK button and pop this over the top here. So we can pop it up a little bit to the side, we can do a little bit of jaunty matting and layering, we can pop it in the centre. And until you press the print button, you've not wasted anything, because all we're doing is just designing digitally. It's entirely up to you. So we're just going to add a little bit of drop shadow to this one here. So again, we're just doing a little bit of digital matting and layering. So again, we're going to move it around so it's in the same direction as the first drop shadow. And then we're going to go to the blur radius to soften it a little bit, and then we're just going to bring it back just a little bit, just reduce the size of it so it's a bit more in line with the first one. And then we click off and you can see we've got some more matting and layering on that. So now I'm going to bring this back over here Copy and paste. And then we're going to add a little border down at the bottom. So we've actually got 2 borders on this design sheet, so we can choose which one we want to work with. I'm actually going to use both, but we're going to just crop one to start with and then bring another one onto the page. So we're going to crop. Now this time, instead of actually clicking and dragging on the crop button, on the crop feature, I'm actually just going to click on the design sheet. And you'll see that activates the crop feature straight away. So if you want a very specific area and you want to just drag the edges in, just click onto the design that you're wanting to crop, and then it activates the feature, and then you can just literally pull the edges in to where you want them. So we're just going to literally pull this one in and pull this one up. So we've got the pink border on there that matches the little topper that we've got on there. I'm going to pop this over the top of the sheet here, and I'm going to pop it so that I've just got a little bit of the pink on this side and a little bit of the lilac on this side, and then we're just going to pull the edges in, again just using those blue boxes. So we're using the crop feature, but we're using it slightly differently to how we usually use it, because we're not actually just dragging the box and hoping that we get the right area. We're actually positioning everything and then pulling those edges in to make sure we've got exactly what we want on there. So I'm going to OK that one, click onto this one again and copy and paste. Bring it back over here, and we're going to go for the little white border on this one. So again, we're going to press crop. I'm going to make sure I can see all of the edges, all of the boxes around the image. We're going to press crop, and we're just going to click. So again, we've just activated the crop feature. I'm going to pull this top edge down just a little tiny bit, and then we're going to pull the bottom edge all the way up to the edge of this little border. I'm going to pop this over the top of here, and then we're just going to pull the edge in just like so. So you can see there, and then we can OK, and we can click off, and actually I just need to pull that out just a little bit more because I didn't quite get it right. And there you can see we've actually added a double border at the bottom, again as if we've done the matting and layering physically, but we've done it digitally at the moment. So then on here we've also got these little embellishments. So I want to take one of these, and I want to take the circle one. So rather than use the crop button, which obviously works with the edges and only works square or rectangle, we're going to use a digital punch. So we're going to go to the digital punch tab, and then we're going to go to basic shapes, and we're going to go to the circle. So it always puts the punch at the top left of the page, so it's gone on the top left of the actual page here. We just pull it across to the side and then resize it down so that it covers the embellishment. So just get it over the top there where we want it, and then just get that in position, and then we're going to press the keep inner button. Press delete on the keyboard to get rid of the digital punch. Put this in position here. Now because we actually copied and pasted and put that design sheet with the border over the top, then it's actually tucked it behind, so we just need to right click and go to order. So order is the order of the elements that you've brought onto the page, and we're just going to bring that circle to the front. And you can see there we've got that on there, but however you can see it's blending in just a little bit. So what we're going to do is add another drop shadow. So you can see there's the drop shadow. Just move the drop shadow around to the area that is blending in just a little bit, and then we're just going to blur that one just to soften that drop shadow. And there you can see we've got the dimensions. So there we've built a topper on the page from a design sheet. So rather than printing the design sheet and actually cutting everything out and deciding how you want to make your card, then you can actually do this digitally. So I changed the canvas to A5 if you remember. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just draw over the whole screen, and that's actually selected all the different elements. So you can see I've got all these different pieces that are now selected. Now if I was to resize these pieces, it would actually resize the one that I'm actually selected. So we're going to group them together, which is going to lock everything, so it's now one piece. We're going to move this to the side, and we're going to copy and paste. That gives me an identical group. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the print tab, and I'm going to make the page A4. So we've not resized the topper is still A5. So at this point, we could either pop 2 of these on the page and print 2 out, so we can do batch card making. But one of the other things that we can do is we can right click and ungroup. So that actually now has made everything an individual item. And what we can do now is we can rotate the backing paper so that it fits onto your A4 sheet. we can bring these pieces down here. So these are the little toppers that we created. And then we can separate out these little bits, but we can choose which bits that we're actually printing. So all we need to do now is actually rotate this one round here. So we can rotate that one, just nudge that one over there. Rotate that one, I'm just going to shrink that one down just a little bit more so that it fits on there. And then these bits here we can pop on as well. So if you wanted to, you could actually design this. I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit more so that we can actually get the border underneath. And then we're going to rotate this, actually we'll rotate that one back because we can get that border down the edge of there. So this is where we're kind of playing digital Jenga. So we're going to, or Tetris even. So we're going to pop that one down there. So then that's going to fit on there. And then this little circle is just going to go in that gap there. So we can now actually have this one on the screen so that you can see how you're wanting to do your matting and layering. But then this is actually the sheet that you're going to print out. Oh, we'll just move that there, bear with me about it. Oh, why does that keep moving? There we go. So then you can see we've actually got our, so you've got the display version, which is the one that you're going to copy when you're doing your matting and layering, but you've also got the one that you're going to print out when you want to do your physical matting and layering. But you can also print out the solid one, that is the topper, mat and layer that onto a card, or you could actually, if we just grab all of this little lot over this side, I'm just going to group that and move that over there. We could actually pop this one on here, rotate it around, print it out, and then that's actually a card front. So we could actually print that, fold the piece of card in half right on the inside, and you've digitally designed a card that is ready for you to actually just fold and send it. Just maybe add a little bit of glitter, add a little bit of personalisation on it, but that's there and ready to go. So the design sheets are, you know, originally designed for you to actually create your designs when you've printed it out. But what we're doing now is we're doing that digitally to make sure that we're just printing the elements that we want, or to also make sure that that particular design sheet does what you're wanting it to do. So that's how we've done that. I'm very aware that I'm talking very quickly and going through this quite quickly, but I know a lot of you guys have got to Microsoft Studio already and know the basics. So does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay, I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water. If you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. Andrew will read them out for me. But nothing at the moment. Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll go on to the next demonstration. So the next one I'm going to do is basically I'm going to make an envelope to match the design that we've just created. So we're going to create a new page. So we're going to remove the grid and the ruler. So to get a new page, all we do, you could clear that page down, but I want to copy and paste some of those elements. So we go up to the top left and we go new, and it just brings up a new page with the grid and the ruler on there. So it's going to zoom out so that we can see all the edges of the page, and then we're just going to pop this back on here. So what I want to do is move this one over to the side because I'm going to work with this piece because I want some of these particular elements. So we're going to ungroup this one, and we're going to copy. So we'll right click on the backing paper and press copy. We go onto the new page, we right click and we press paste, and it puts that backing paper onto that page in exactly the same position. So if you're wanting to do something different with your with another project, but you're wanting to maybe change just a couple of the elements, copy and paste it, and then it puts them in exactly the same place so that you can actually then just fill in the bits with other elements if you wanted to. So we're going to pop this on here, and we're going to rotate this back round to the portrait position, and we're going to stretch it up to the full A4. So now we're going to go into our lavender rain. So here we go. So this is another one of the USBs. So at the moment, bear in mind, we've only worked with one design sheet from one of the 5 USBs on this particular, 5 of the collections on this USB. So in Lavender Rain, we've got a folder called Templates. We've got a huge amount on Lavender Rain as well. That was one of the most popular USBs that we ever did with Minecraft Studio. It was so popular and so beautiful. But on this one, we've also got our templates. And the templates, when you drag them on, if I move this paper out of the way, when you drag the template onto the page, it doesn't look like it's done anything. And this is one of the questions we get quite a lot. So it doesn't look like it's done anything. It doesn't look like there's anything there, but it's actually a white template. So you can see there, we've actually got the score line on here. and we've also got the shape on here. So when I pop this over the top of a paper, so you see if I pop the paper back in place and put the template over the top, it actually turns that paper into an envelope template. So it's there ready for me to decorate. So, and it has got the score lines on it. What I'm going to do, and what I always do if I'm doing this over the top of a pale design, is I'm going to make the template black, because at that point I can see where the score lines are, so I know which panel I'm decorating, so that I don't want the border, we don't want it to I don't want it to go round to the back of the envelope or into the tabs or anything. I just want to decorate the front. So I want to make sure maybe we want to make sure we're centered in this piece, so we can do it that way. So we're going to go back to our other page, and we're going to get this particular border here. We're going to right click and copy, back onto the other page, right click and paste, and then we're going to pop this onto the envelope here, and then we're just going to stretch it up so that it fits on the design there. So you can see there I'm actually working in between the two black dashed lines, and the dashed lines are your score lines on your envelope. Don't worry, we'll change the envelope back to white before we print it so that we don't have horrible black lines on there. So we've got that section there. And then we're going to go back and we're going to bring, let's have a look, let's bring this one on. So we're going to right click and copy, back onto this one, right click and paste. It's going to pop this here, and I'm going to rotate it around. So I'm rotating it around using the little circle at the top, and I'm just clicking and dragging with my mouse, and if I press that shift button, it snaps to 45-degree angle, so I know I'm at a perfect 90 degrees there. So I'm going to pop this down here, and we're going to shrink it right down so it's just a little bit of decoration on the front. I'm just going to move this border up a little bit and pop that there. So just pop that there. And then we're going to go back to here, bring this one on. So we're going to copy and paste, pop this one on here. And what I'm actually going to do with this one is I'm going to remove the drop shadow. So go down to the drop shadow sliders. So I'm going to take that off there. So take the sliders back across to 0, so we've got no drop shadow on there. And I'm actually going to fade this down. So at the moment the pattern is actually going in the opposite direction to the pattern on the backing paper, but I'm going to really fade it down because I want this to be almost white, because this is where we're going to write the address on the envelope. So the first thing I want to do is copy and paste. And then on the layers tab, I want to make sure that I've clicked onto the bottom one of those two, and then go to the effects tab, and I'm going to take the brightness all the way to the right hand side and make it pure white. So that is now an identical copy, so it's exactly the right size for me. I don't need to worry about creating a shape or creating a digital punch that's exactly that size. So that's now perfectly white. So if we go to the layers tab, you can see it's white. If I click that off, we've got a solid white area to actually write if we wanted to. But if we click this one back on and go to effects and we fade this one down, so we use the opacity slider, we need to make sure that you clicked onto the top one, there we go. Back to the layers tab, make sure you clicked on the right layer. Bring this slider all the way down, you can see we're actually fading that design. So we've got an almost white section to write on, but it's not pure white, so it's not as stark as that white box. So if I go back to the layers tab and switch that off, you can see that's very, very bold and very, very strong, and obviously it's got the solid edges. But if I switch that back on, it just softens it that little bit to give you somewhere to write. But another option on this is I'm going to switch this layer off and click onto the white layer. We can go to the effects and we can come down to the softer edges. So this actually softens the edges of the shape but leaves the center of it solid. So we're going to go to the rectangle slider and we're just going to soften those edges, so that almost feathers it into the design. So it's almost as if you've used a rice paper with a paintbrush and some water and softened it, and then just pulled the fibres apart and just got that very, very soft feathering. That's what the softer edges does. So it's not just for when you're building backing papers, it's also for when you're wanting to blend your shapes into each other. And then we can go back up to the top and use the opacity, and we can fade that down just a little bit. So it gives us a softer area to actually pop our sentiment. And then again, don't forget that we said at the beginning, just going to click on the template and change the brightness back to white, so that when we print this out, the only area that prints is the beautifully decorated envelope that we've actually got on there. And then in the file section, we do also have the back of the envelope. So all we would do is remove these decorative pieces. So remove those pieces, just pressing the delete button on my keyboard to get rid of them. And then pop this template over the top. So again, it perfectly matches, and it's designed so that this is centered in the same place as this one, so that when you actually pop them over the top of your A4 sheet, the center of the back of the front panel is exactly the same position as this piece, so that your pattern matches and follows through onto the back of the envelope when you actually stick it together. So that's how we do that. And you do have instructions on there on how to actually use all the templates as well. So we've got different templates as well, which is really interesting. So if I remove some of these and we have a look at some of the others, we've actually got handbags on here. So you can see you can actually make a three-dimensional handbag as a gift bag. And again, you see you've got the full step-by-step instructions on how to create those. We've got a different shaped handbag. So this one actually creates a little box bag. So you can see we've got little tabs on here. So then you actually get the extra pieces to pop here and here. So you actually create a complete box bag. And we've also got some little white, little stationery envelopes. So where are we? There's the little square envelope. So you can see again, and this is all just one, this is actually just half of a design sheet we're working with now. So this is one backing paper, which shows you that you can actually make complete sets. And if you wanted to make somebody, you know, maybe you make gifts with Minecraft Studio. A lot of people are making earrings and making coasters and key rings and all kinds of things now. So maybe you wanted to make a gift, pop it in a gift box, but then also make the envelope and the card that match. Absolutely beautiful. But also if you're selling your designs, then, you know, what an amazing thing to be able to have, you know, if maybe you take a little box into work every now and again, or to the hairdressers, or, you know, if you've got a stall or anything like that, then you can sell these designs as well, and you can sell complete matching gift sets. So that's how we use the white templates. We do also have stationery boxes on here, and again with full step-by-step instructions on how to make a dimensional stationery box. As you can see here, it actually shows you how to make the complete box with all the panels and the pockets inside. So lots and lots on here for you to get going with, but that's how we use the white templates. So has anybody got any questions on using the templates at all? There are no silly questions. If you don't know, you don't know, so every question's valid. No questions yet? Okay, we shall continue. Okay, so let's have a play with some of the backing papers then. So we're going to go into let's stay with Lavender Rain. So in here we've got a tiles folder, and in this tiles folder we've got obviously we've got the index sheet here, and you can see here. So we've got about 35-40 tiles in here, I think it was. Oh, actually no, there's more than that. There's 56 tiles in here, and you may be wondering what a tile is, but it is literally a square design. However, the square has actually been designed so that the pattern actually repeats perfectly. So you can see here you've got half of this little blue flower here and the other half of it here. And then you've got the leaves here that flow up there, but they also come down here. So that means when we tile that this is a repeat pattern. So we literally pop this up in the top corner. You don't have to put it in the top corner, you can put it anywhere on the page that you want to. And we press the tile button, and then obviously the white box has changed to blue, which means that when we pull them out, we're actually replicating the design. So you can see here now, we're creating a backing paper from a tile. Now we've got two different styles of tiles in here. We've got some that are JPEGs and some that are PNGs. So some with the white backing on them, some with different colour backings on them. So you can see this one here has got a pink background on it. So again, we press the tile button and we can create a complete backing paper. So very, very simple, it's just a couple of clicks. But what we can also do is we can grab a design sheet. So we can go with this design sheet here, and maybe this isn't the pattern that you want on the back of your card. You know, maybe you're happy with it on the topper, but you want something different on the back of the card. We can go into the tiles and we can grab any one of these tiles. So let's just go with this one here. So we'll go with this one, we'll shrink it down, and we will press the tile button and we'll tile it over the top of this one. So then you've got a different look to your design sheet and you can create your card in a different way. So that's one way of using the tiles. But something we've also got in here are some tiles that they look a little bit different. So you can see when you've actually got your computer on and you're looking at them in the preview screen, you'll see that they do look a little bit different, and that's because they're transparent. So they have little black bits around the edges of the preview image, and that means it's a transparent image. So what this means is that when we pop it over the page, obviously it looks like it's white, but what we can also do is go into the backgrounds folder, pick out one of the backing papers, and we've got some lovely purple ones in here, so I'm just going to grab one of those. Down here we go. So let's have a look at this one here. Yeah, so a lovely plaid one there. So we'll pop that one on there, and I'm just going to soften that down a little bit. So back into the effects and use the opacity to fade it down a little bit. And back to the files and into the tiles box. So here we can pick any of the ones that have got the little black areas on them. So we're going to go with this one here, which has got the beautiful little pots of lavender on it. Shrink it down a little bit just because the pattern's a little bit big for my liking on this particular one. So we've got the option to make it the size we want. And we will stretch this out this way and down this way. So now, rather than it being over the top of a white background, you can see here we go into the layers tab, switch that background off. You can see we've actually still got a copy of a design sheet on there. I'm just going to delete that. That's from the last project. So back to the background. So switch the background off, and you can see there we've just got the tile that is actually the design we created there. So if we click on this and reduce this down, you see we've just got the white page there. So it's a transparent tile, because the second we switch the background back on, we've got that lovely little soft lilac plaid in the background. So we go back to the files and into the background, and I'm just going to grab another paper. So we'll go with another purple one. So let's maybe try this one. So we'll go with this one here. So lovely distressed wooden background. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the effects, and we're going to soften this down. So you can see here we've got the lilac, the lavender showing through with the lilac wood over the top, and we can just start to see a little bit of that plaid coming in at the back there. We can go to the softer edges, and then we can actually bring in the edges of this particular one so that we can create something more like, maybe a bit more like a note paper if you have this solid and you wanted to create your own bespoke stationery. Just use the brightness slider to line it off a little bit. So much that we can do with these. So we're just going to fade this down again and use the softer edges, but we're going to use the softer edges with the circle slider, so it actually gives us an oval in the corners rather than the rectangle, because I just think that just makes it look a little bit softer. And then we can go back to the files, we can go to our images, and then we can bring on this pot of lavender, which is the same pot that's actually in the backing paper that we've created using the tile. Pop this on here. So we can pop that down, pop that there, maybe pop it down there a little bit. And we can have it so it's overlapping the corner and crop it if we wanted to. So if we just click on the crop button, again, I'm just going to click to activate the crop feature rather than just click and drag over it. Going to pull the edges in, so just like we did earlier. So just pull those edges in just a little bit so that they're in line with the edge of the paper. So just back out just a little bit. And then OK, and then there we've created our own. So again, this could be a note paper if you wanted it to be. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our paper flowers USB, and into here we've got some beautiful labels. So these labels are, as you can see here, we've got labels like this, so beautifully decorated, but they've got a lovely metallic sheen on them. So when you actually print these out, they will look metallic because of the way that the artwork has been designed. But you see we've actually got these frames on here as well. So we can pop this frame on here, right click and go to order and send it backwards, which is going to tuck it behind that lavender there. But what we can then do is, with this particular paper that we've got here where we used the faded edges, we can actually go to the layers and click on that one. And then because it's obviously at the moment it's overlapping the edges of this frame that we just brought on, what we can do is use the digital scissors. So we've made sure that we've clicked on the backing paper that's behind the frame, and then we can click around the detail of the frame that we've just brought on, and we're just going to click around here, and you can see I'm going really roughly because this backing paper is behind this frame. So every snip with my mouse, every click with my mouse is a snip with a pair of digital scissors. Get back to the beginning and it changes to blue. We keep the inner of that backing paper, and now we've actually created a totally different look to it because we've actually cut away the faded area that we created, and that now fits perfectly within that frame. So what we can also do is we can do this with the other backing papers that we've got on here if they weren't tiled. Now they are tiled, so to do this what we need to do is save this file as a JPEG. So I'm just going to undo the cut that we just did. I'm going to move this to one side and I'm going to move this to one side. I'm going to save this file as a JPEG. It will only save the area that's on the white page. So I'm going to press Save As. I'm going to click here on the little Save As type box and save it as a JPEG. And we're just going to call it Paper 1 because we called the last one Paper when we did another class. So that's now saved that design as a backing paper. So where at the moment these are all individual elements and we can't use the scissors on a tiled element, what we now have, if I delete these off the page, in our documents folder on the computer, is paper number 1, which is that paper that we just created, which is totally unique to us, but is now those 3 layers locked together. And I just need to send this backwards so that it's behind this frame. I actually need to send it backwards again because we brought the other element on, so send it to the back. Oh no, I've clicked on the frame, so I sent that to the back, but we'll bring the frame to the front. So there we go, so the paper's behind the frame. So we're going to pop this on here, and then what we're actually going to do is I'm going to leave that to one side. I'm going to click on the paper, I'm going to use my scissors, and then we're going to snip. Again, so we're following the frame, but we're actually working on the paper because the paper is what we want to snip away so that it actually sits behind the frame. So then we get back to the beginning, the line changes from black to blue, the selection is now blue, and we select keep in, and we can keep the outer if we wanted to so that we can have an aperture inside the frame, which might make a nice note paper. So you can see there, that actually has turned that into a note paper where we could actually have this just tucked inside the frame if we wanted to. So a totally different look to what I was planning on showing you, but I wanted to show you we have options. So we have the undo button up at the top. So then again, just click onto the paper, use the scissors, snip back around, and then you can see here we can actually just go back to the beginning, get the blue line, keep the inner, and there you can see we've got our own little topper there, which we can pop this in here, shrink that down a little bit so it's a little bit big at the moment, and then we can actually bring in some more elements from some of the other USBs. So let's have a look in, so in Botanical Blooms we've got some beautiful lace designs. So let's have a look. So we've got this beautiful one here. So this one here is a beautiful piece of lace. So you can see there. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change it to white. So we're going to go to the effects, use the brightness to change it to white, and it's just blending in with my paper a little bit too much, so we fade it down a little bit so it's just got a really soft detail there. And then we'll use the scissors again on this one, and again I'm going to follow the edge of the frame here. So we're going to go around there, going to come around this section here because while there's nothing there it doesn't matter, we don't need to worry about where we're clicking, and then back to the beginning to get the blue line. I'm going to keep the inner, so we've got a little bit of white lace on there, so we can actually so we can bring this back up to a little bit whiter, and then we're going to go back to the files. What else have we got? Let's have a look. So we've got our images, so many images on the Botanical Blooms one. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the layers, I'm going to click on the little lavender pot, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back to the files because in this one here we've got this little sprig of lavender instead. So we can actually pop this one into the frame. So we've actually made the backing paper using the Lavender Rain USB, and then we pulled into the frame from the paper flowers, and then now we've jumped into the Botanical Blooms. So this shows you that with these collections you can mix and match. Now these could be different USBs, but at the moment we're working with 5 collections on one USB, but we've mixed 3 collections here just to make one topper, and you've got thousands and thousands of elements on the USB that you actually bought. So lots and lots of different options. So we're just going to use the scissors on this particular one. So again, we're going to follow around the frame. So again, back to to the beginning, get the blue line. I'm going to keep the inner, and then we're just going to tuck that behind the frame. So we're going to send it backwards by a couple of layers. So it's the minute it's behind the lace, and then it's going to go behind the frame. So we've tucked that into there instead. So we've just changed the flowers, but it's given it a very, very different look, because this is a bit more of a contemporary image than the one that we had before. So lots and lots of different options with mixing and matching across the different collections. And then we can actually group this again. If you wanted to save this as a topper, you can group it, we can resize it. So actually, when I'm working, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm working, I like to work quite large and then shrink the design down. And you could zoom into the page if you wanted to, but for me personally, you know, my eyes aren't what they used to be anymore. But you know, I like to create the design large, because then you know that when you shrink it, everything's in proportion. But just make sure that you group it before you start shrinking, because it's quite frustrating when you've made something perfect and then you just shrink the wrong bit. But then obviously we have the undo button for that exact purpose. So we have this on here now, and we can right click and copy, right click and paste. And then we can paste another one, which pastes it over the top of the original, and paste another one. So if you're doing batch card making, if you're doing stationery, wedding stationery, anything like that, then you can group your designs and you can save your projects as well. So we can save this as Micro Studio files that are editable, or we can save them as JPEGs and PNGs as well, so we can edit them later, as you've just seen. Okay, so we have a question. So we have a question which is, which one do I recommend saving on your file types, which is whether I recommend saving as a JPEG or an MCS. Now it depends what you're wanting to do with the file. If there's a chance that you might want to come back later and edit the file, I would always save it as an MCS file, because at that point you've still got all of the layers are all separate. So you can come in, we can take that lavender out and we can change that lavender for a rose, we can change the frame for a different frame, we can change the backing paper, we can take the backing paper out, we can add text. If you wanted to, as we just saw with the backing paper that I created a paper with 3 different layers. So I can save that as an MCS file, and then the tiled paper is still tiled, so I can reduce the tile, I can change the size of the tile, but I can also take out the wooden paper that we had in there and bring in maybe a watercolour texture or something. But if I save that as a JPEG, that locks all of those layers together, so it's just literally a flat image as per all of the ones that we put on there for you. The advantage of that though is that you can then come back in and you can use the scissors, you can use your digital punches on them, you can tile those. So you've then got even more options. So personally, I tend to save both file versions. If I've just made something because I just want to feel creative and I've just had a couple of hours sat at the computer, just because, you know, maybe hubby's watching something on TV and I've just got some background noise going on and I want to just sit and feel creative, but I don't want to get the craft stuff out, then I'll make a load of files, but I will actually save them all just as MCS files. And then once I decide what I'm going to do with them, I'll decide whether I want to save it as a PNG or a JPEG. But it does depend what you want to do. But I would always, if you've got a space on your computer or an external hard drive or just a USB stick, then save the MCS file, because you can always go back to it later and edit it. So yeah, great question, because it's one of those where there are lots of different reasons for saving in different file formats. Do any of you guys ever save your files as Micro Studio and go back and edit them later? Yep, lots of nods going on. Fabulous. Okay, so let's have a look. Have we got any more questions at all while we're... Okay, so we've had a few people popping in the last sort of few minutes or so. Once we have finished the class, absolutely you'll be able to watch it back. So what happens is we finish the class. Andrew does some kind of technical wizardry magician stuff. I have no idea. But it usually takes sort of 24 hours or so, and then if you bought the USB from us, you'll get an email from us. If you bought it from Create and Craft, you'll get an email from Create and Craft, and it's a link to YouTube, but it's a link that only you guys that bought the product get. So this video doesn't go on YouTube for everybody to see, only the people that bought the product. So keep an eye out for an email from either us, from Highlight Crafts if you bought it from us, or Create and Craft if you bought it from them. So yes, absolutely, and then you can watch it as many times as you like to to see what we actually did, and have a play with your own versions of the demonstrations. So, excuse me, having a drink of water. I'm not used to just talking solidly for an hour, although Andrew would tell you different. So I'm just going to clear the of silence in my ear at the moment, just so you know. I do think we need to get Andrew on camera at some point one day, because you guys all hear about him, but you never actually see him. So yeah, we'll work on it. He's saying no in my ear, but we'll work on it. So something else that we've got on these USBs are notebooks, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Micro Studio notebooks, but they're very, very pretty, and there's a couple of ways of using them as well. So we have the front cover of the notebook, we have the back of the notebook, which has the little dotted line on it for you to create the spine, and then the tab on the notebook actually gets glued to the back of the, so to the reverse of the front cover. And then we have the pages. So what we do with the pages is we print out multiple pages, and then we actually follow the instructions on how to glue them in. So there is a tab on them, and you can actually fold the tab and glue them in using the tab. But then there's another way of doing it, where if you print out loads of pages, cut the tabs off, and then just pat them down on your table so that they're all perfectly lined up, and then just get some something like a not the stencil glue from Pinflow. What's the other glue? So there's not the Pinflow glue or the stencil glue, the all stick. Get something like that, and then just get a little bit on your finger and rub it across the top of the pages, and it will actually create a glue-bound book, a bit like the notebooks that you get in the shops. Then you can actually tear off a page at a time. So it takes a little while to dry, because you do need to rub it into the fibres of the paper so that they all stick together. But that's a great way of making a little notebook, just so you know. I went off on a tangent there because I was going to show you something different with the notebook, but you know, every tip's a winner. So let's have a look here. So we have the page for the notebook, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a digital punch on this one. So I'm going to crop the actual backing, the back of the notebook. So we're going to get rid of the little score lines at the top. So we're going to crop that. So we clicked on it rather than click and drag to activate the feature, and just pull the edge in. And then we're going to click onto the center section, and we're going to go to the digital punch, go to basic shapes, and we're going to go to the oval, and we're going to bring this on here, stretch it out. So we want it a little bit wider, so we're going to change the proportion of the oval so that it just touches the edges of the striped paper, bring it up a little bit at the top and down just a fraction at the bottom. And then we're going to keep the inner. And then we're going to pop this over the top of the actual notebook. I'm going to group these two together so that I can make them bigger, just because it's easier for working with. So you can see there we've got the lined paper as part of the backing paper now, because rather than doing this as the notebook as it's designed, I wanted to make my own note paper. So we have that on there. I just need to ungroup these two. So you can see there we've actually got that on there. But what we can also do, if I just grab that page again, in fact I'm going to grab a different coloured one. Let's go with this one here so it's going to stand out a bit more for you. What we're going to do is we're going to stretch it up, and then we're going to use the crop feature. So again, just click to crop it so that we can drag the sides in. So pull this in there, pull that one up a little bit at the bottom, so it's going to try and get even edges on there. And then OK that one. So we've got this section in the centre now. And then we're going to go to the Effects tab. I'm going to go to that softer edges. So I'm just going to soften those edges just to blend this paper into the background. So we're going to use the rectangle version and just soften those edges just to, so it just literally looks like it's actually part of the design. So it just bleeds the design into each other. And I love that particular feature because it gives you a look that you can't get with your regular matting and layering unless you're using rice paper, which is absolutely fabulous. And then what I want to do now is just stretch this one up, and then I'm going to bring it to the front because of the order that we brought the pages onto the page. So we're going to bring this to the front, and then we're actually going to use the lasso knife to go around this section. In fact, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take that one off the page, and I'm going to go into the files. I'm going to go into the images section for this particular USB. I'm going to put a different flower on there. So let's have a look. We've got lots and lots of different ones on here. So we could pop that one on there if we wanted to. Let's have a look. There we go, we can pop that one on. So you see that one, that's absolutely beautiful. So you can pop this down here. So we're just going to pop that down there. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have an alignment tool on Microsoft Studio. But what we do have is the nudge feature. So what we can do is, if I copy and paste, if I right click and copy and right click and paste, then we can actually use the arrow keys on your keyboard, and it nudges it, so it makes sure that it's actually perfectly, it stays in exactly the same line horizontally or vertically. Unfortunately, we don't have an alignment tool that will snap everything into alignment. That is absolutely on my wish list. It is the very, very top thing on my wish list for if ever Create and Craft, who obviously Create and Craft own Microsoft Studio now. It is top of my list if ever they say that they're going to give us the green light to develop new features. So it's on the list, and if we can do it, it will be there. But obviously, it's not our graphics program; it's Create and Craft's graphics program that we work under license with now. So that would be their decision, unfortunately. But we do, yeah, we understand what, you know, there's a lot of people asking for that one these days, but at the moment it isn't something we have in the program. But one of the things that I also wanted to just show you quickly was that we can just pop this one up here. So if I get rid of that one from down there, if I pop this one up here and copy and paste and pop it down here, at the moment it's facing in the wrong direction. So if I flip this design horizontally and then flip it vertically, it's now framing the paper. And then we can actually bring this one on here, so this beautiful little forget-me-not here. Pop this down here. So at the moment it's over the top of that one, so we're going to go order and send it backwards so that it's behind. And then we're going to copy and paste. And then we need to flip it, because if I rotate this around, it's actually going down, so it's curving down, and I want it to curve into the page because I want it to lead the eye into the notebook. So again, we're going to flip. I'm going to flip it, oh, I need to flip it, there we go, yeah, horizontally. I was trying to work out whether I wanted to flip it vertically or horizontally then, because I'd already rotated it. So we're going to pop that down there. I'm going to go order and send it backwards, because again, it's behind that little flower. So we've got a little bit of detail there on the note paper. And then what we can do again is we can select all, and we can group, and we can reduce this in size. And then we can put multiples of these onto the page. So copy and paste. And then we can go back to the original notebooks folder, bring on the paper, and actually just, actually I'm going to delete that one. So if I go to this one here, I can see down at the bottom that this is actually, I've got varifocus, so I have to look down the bottom of my glasses. So I've got 9.06 centimetres. So I'm going to click on this one and tell it that we want it to be the same size. And then this is now going to fit into the notebook. So we then copy and paste, and we pop a few of these onto the page so that we can actually print multiple sheets at the same time. And then this is then going to go into our notebook, and then you can create your own front cover for your notebook as well, which then fits with the back cover and actually then works perfectly with your instructions, because you've actually then personalised the page that's going to go into the notebook. If you wanted to as well, one of the things that I would do is take the front design and just use that as a template to actually build my own design, because you have got all of the elements on all of these collections to actually build your own notebook. So use these as templates as well. You know, don't just see them as, you know, these are the designs and this is how I've got to use them. You can take a backing paper, you can crop it and make it that size, and then you can actually use that as the template for the cover to build your own notebook cover. And then you can actually create the pages that go inside it, as you've seen. You know, we've put all these designs on here for you, but these designs are an idea for you. They're a starting point. You know, if you want to make something quick, print out the design that we've put on there. But if you have got time to, and you're wanting to personalise, then you have got the option to create your own and build your own. So, you know, as you've just seen, I've taken this page here that is just, you know, a simple, simple page that coordinates perfectly, but I've actually changed it to, it's a two-tone page, but then we've actually added the floral detail onto there as well. So we're framing the note paper element. So adding a little bit more detail and a little bit more dimension to the pages. And it just makes that a little bit more personal because you've designed it. It's not something you've just printed and created. And then, you know, all of these things, once you've printed them, you can, as long as you've created something by hand, you can actually sell them. So all those different options as well. We've also got tags on here. So look at these tags, absolutely beautiful. So beautiful tags. But if you wanted this section here just as a topper, you've got that crop feature. So everything is an option within Minecraft Studio. So again, just click the crop button, click onto the design, and then just pull the design in. Now, you know, you may want to pull it in and keep part of the floral border on there. So if I pop that there and then pull this bit back up, we can actually keep that as a border. So then we've got a topper rather than a tag, but also this can then be tiled. So if we shrink that down, in fact, I'm going to go even smaller. I'm going to tile it. And then we've got a tiled backing paper to go with our tag, so then we can fade that down, so we've got a softer design that matches perfectly with the tag, which can then be the tag on the gift. So you can use the tiled paper as your gift wrap if it's a small gift, or if you've got an A3 printer, so the tiled paper can be your gift wrap, and then you've got the gift tag that matches perfectly because it's where you've actually taken the backing paper from. So you created your own backing paper and wrapping paper from the tag, so nothing has to be what we originally intended it for on Minecraft Studio. And I think that for me is my biggest passion with digital crafting, because you know, we have, you know, you buy a die, you buy a stamp, and I love stamping, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love stamping. That's probably my second favourite after digital crafting, but they have a finite number of uses, where on Minecraft Studio, you know, the tag can be a tile, it can be a backing paper, it can be decoupage, it can be cropped, you can turn that into a note paper, because what you could do is you could take this this tag, you could crop the center out. So again, we can just quickly crop that out there. And then we can actually pop a white box over the top of the center here. So if I just bring this one on and just crop this section here, okay, that, go into the effects, take the brightness all the way up to white. So again, when you're doing this with the white, to make something white, it doesn't matter what colour you start with, but we can pop this over the top of here, and then that is a frame for you to build your own topper onto. So that started out from a tag. So nothing has to be what we intended it for, because that's where we give you the creativity to build your own designs and create your own visions. So yeah, I love it. I hope you can tell that I love it. Have we had any more questions? Has anybody got anything they wanted to ask while we're here? There isn't a template for an A4 envelope, but if you do have an A3 printer, you could actually stretch up the A5 one, because the A5 envelope will have the same proportions as an A4 one, it's just half the size. So you could do that if you did have an A3 printer, but to make an A4 envelope out of an A4 sheet, you would need several pieces, and you'd have to paper piece it together, so you'd have joins on there. So I would only suggest doing that if you do have an A3 printer. I hope that helps. Okay, so that was the last question. Has anybody actually made anything with this USB yet? Or have you been waiting for the Zoom? Have you all got creative and made loads of beautiful things? So, so this is volume 1. Somebody's asked if there are going to be other volumes of the Best of Minecraft Studio, and yes, there are. We need to slot them in. So we've got Scene Building volumes 7 and 8 launching on Sunday. David's doing that one, which is very exciting. That's the 2 Red Robins scene building. And and then we've got a couple more regular Minecraft Studios coming through, but there are some more of the best ofs. So there's a best of Florals Volume 2 that has been planned, and then there's a characters one. There's possibly going to be a best of Christmas one this year. So yes, if you're new to Minecraft Studio and have missed out on, we've got I think it's 13 years now of back catalogue, then stay tuned, because these best ofs are going to be coming through over the next 12 months or so. We've got a few of them planned for you. So it's very exciting. It's really quite invigorating for me to look at the artwork, that you kind of assume that the artwork dates a little bit because trends change and styles change, but actually looking at it, some of these designs are several years old, but they could literally have been designed now because of the way that we do the artwork, and we've always done the artwork for Minecraft Studio because we need it to be so versatile. So that's been a really interesting thing for me to look back at and see. So yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this Zoom. I hope you've learned something. And yeah, is there any more questions at all? So somebody's asking about text. Okay, so we'll go do a quick text demonstration. So somebody's asking about the buttons that say add text. So I'm just going to delete everything off the page, go to the text tab. So we've got two buttons that say add text, and one's for regular text and one's for word design. So if we press the add text button, when you put your mouse over the page, you'll see that it changes to a cursor as if you're clicking into an email or a word processor. So if I just type happy birthday, yeah, I spelt it right. Woo. So it's going to stretch this on the page. So you'll see there we've now got the text. This is just regular text. It's always going to be in a straight line. You can center and you can left and right justify if you wanted to, and you can make it bold. You can also change the font, so we just need to double click in there. It will automatically default to Georgia because that's the one font that's built into the program. Any other font within Minecraft Studio is already on your computer. So any font you have from anywhere, whether you've downloaded free fonts, whether you've purchased fonts, whether you've had CDs from magazines that have got fonts on them. I know I used to get some scrapbooking ones that have them. Any font that's on your computer will appear in this box here. So we can change the font to anything we like. So I'm just going to get this one to be quite a chunky one. As you can see there, I'm just going to bring back on the tag that we just had on the page. So we can change the colour of the text. We have this box here, so every click anywhere in here is every click on every dot in here is a tone of that particular shade of blue. But then when we move up here, we've got all of these different shades. So every single one of these, so every click in there is a click for that shade of pink. Every click there is that shade of pink. So you can see that the actual text on the screen is changing as I'm clicking. But we also have the colour picker button. And if I now click, you see my mouse has changed to a pen. If I now click, you can see that the text is now exactly the same colour as that dot that I clicked on in the image. So again, click on the colour picker, it changes the mouse to a pen. We go over to the flower. We click on the pink, it's now exactly the same shade as the pink in the flower. So if we put this text over the top, oh, there we go, bring it to the front, pop this text over the top of here, it is now a perfect colour match for the flower on that particular design. So that's our regular text. So I'm just going to pop that one over there just for now. And then if we click on the add text button that's next to the word design section, so again we click and we type our text. So again, it's defaulted back to Georgia as a font, but when I click off it this time, you'll see that the text, it looks like it's gone bold. So you see there, so there's the text, I click off and it gets a bit thicker. So when I click onto the text, we now have an outline box up here. So I'm going to use the colour picker and I'm going to change the text to pink. So you can see it's changed to pink, however, it's the inside of the text that's changed to pink. The outside of the text is black. So if I now use the so to click off the text, click back onto the text and click on the outline, so the black box up at the top. So we're now changing the outline because that's the box that we've changed. We can now click on the colour picker and the outline of the text can be the green that's in the image. It can be the pink that's in the image, so it can be the same pink. We can then click off and click back on the text, use the colour picker and select the light text, the light pink in the image. So now the text is actually two-tone pink that coordinates with the image. So you can see you've got a lot more versatility and options with the word design add text button, but we've also got shapes. So you can see here, we can actually make the text go around in a circle. If you want it to be more oval, you can actually use the slider to do that. You can have it in a slope, which I just need to, just because I just played with that one there, it's put the Y in a funny place. So there you go, you can see it's in the right place now. But we can actually change the direction of the curve on there. We can resize and we can digitally punch with these as well. So if you wanted to do a digital punch of the text, as soon as you've got the text and the font to how you like it, you can actually use it as a digital punch as well. One of the other things is, if I just double click on here and change the font, so we'll go back to this chunky solid font. One of the things that we can do is we can change the thickness of the outline. So you can see there we're changing the thickness, but what we can also do is change the outline to be dots and dashes. So we can have little dots and dashes on there, and then we can actually change whether the dots are square or circle or diamond. And we've got different options. So you can see we've got like a little scalloped edge on it there. And that's with diamonds at the moment, but there you can see it's with circles, so it gives it a bit of a decal edge. Or we can go back and just have the solid edge and just resize it down so it takes it back to being readable. So lots and lots of different options, but that's the reason that we've got two different add text buttons. So one is for regular text, which doesn't have an outline and is just always in a straight line. And the other one is for your word design, which has the outline, so you can just have it in a straight line and play with the outline, or you can actually play with the shapes and manipulate the shapes and see whether you can, sometimes you maybe have a circle aperture, you want to put the sentiment underneath or over the top, then you can do that really quickly and easily, as you've just seen there. So I hope that helped. Okay, so somebody's asking about changing MCS CDs to USBs. Emily, do you mean you're wanting to bring your CDs into the program where you've installed it from a USB? I'm not quite sure on the question there, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but if you wanted to email me directly on diane@highlightcrafts.com, then Andrew, are you able to put that in the chat for Emily? Yeah, thank you. And then yeah, just drop me an email with an example of what it is that you're wanting to do and one of the titles you're wanting to change. Then I'll have a look at that for you. And if your question is for us to bring out the CDs as USBs, that's all part of the best of range that we've that this is the first of that you're at the start of the journey on those for. But if that doesn't answer the question, drop me an email with a bit more detail, and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. So okay, is that it for questions? Okay, well, so yeah, thank you very much everybody for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Just a quick reminder on the discount code, which is MCS15, which again, just until next Thursday, so it gives you a week and gives you 15% off USBs on the Highlight Crafts website. Pop onto the Highlight Crafts website, there's an education tab, and if you click on to put your email address in and click the button that says Minecraft Studio and subscribe, you will be amongst the first to hear about our free monthly Minecraft Studio classes that are coming up at some point very soon. So yeah, we're going to be doing those. So once a month, we're going to do it as a mix of 1 month it'll be myself, 1 month it'll be David. You might even get Stephanie on there 1 month because she's a bit crazy about Minecraft Studio these days as well. Mel's starting to learn it. I can't tell you why, but that's another secret moment. But yes, free monthly Minecraft Studio Zoom workshops are a thing that are happening very soon. So make sure you're on the list to get those details. So yeah, so that's it, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining me. It's been great to have your company, and I hope you've learnt something, and I hope I've inspired you to get a little bit more creative with your projects. Please share them in the Facebook group, which is Minecraft Studio official Facebook group, or on the Highlight Crafts page. Email them to us on help@highlightcrafts.com. Send them to me. Yeah, just share your creations with us, because we love to see them, and we love to see what you're making. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.